Okay, thank you, John.
Okay. I would like to call the May 6th, 2020 meeting of the Historic Preservation Review Board to order. Mr. Boswell, if you would, roll call, please.
Mrs. Hartshorn?
Here.
Mr. Weaver?
Here.
Mr. Geisler?
Here.
Mr. Johnson?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, sir. Members of the committee, the minutes for the April 1st meeting were previously sent out. The individuals in attendance there were Mr. Geisler, Mr. Weaver, and myself. Any comments relative to the minutes? Any corrections, additions?
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve these as submitted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve as submitted. Mr. Boswell, roll call, please.
Mrs. Hartshorn?
Yes.
Abstain.
Oh, yeah, I abstained from that, sorry.
Yes. Mr. Weaver?
Yes.
Mr. Geisler?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes. We have 4 different items for COA, actually 5, excuse me, on the agenda this evening. I know a number of you are probably old hats at this. What would like is when your name is called, if you would, please come up to the podium, tell us a little bit about the application. Any questions that the board may have then we'll ask, and then act on the COA. The first item is Mr. Howard.
I'm Bob Howard, 122 West Valley Street, right over here. Yeah, the windy, you can see me. What I'd like to do is to modify part of my curtain fence in the backyard to keep my dog from leaving the property, which he has on several occasions. He can currently jump the fence that's there now, and I would like to take the northern part of the fenced-in backyard, all in the backyard, to 6 feet to keep him within the property.
Okay. I know you submitted a couple schematics.
Yes, sir.
And you'll have to forgive me. You're replacing your existing fence on the west side, what Mr. Boswell has got pulled up right there
Yes,
along, that's going to be with new 6 feet.
yes, sir.
Okay. My own fault, I wasn't clear on that. And then
That's
you've got a
between
new-
the two houses.
Correct, and then you've got a new dividing line, and the remainder in the backyard will stay as is.
As is, yes, sir.
Okay.
What's the difference with the orange line and the yellow line? Was that, the orange line is what you've modified it to?
The orange line is actually the new
This is
fence.
the
New
new
fence,
fence, so it will
okay.
be, it will be up near the houses, between the two houses, and the remaining part in the back next to Plum Alley will be the same.
So you're gonna have a 6-foot fence in, facing Valley Street,
It will be facing Valley Street,
and then
yes.
coming down that side of the
Right.
back?
But it all is in the backyard.
And so are you gonna extend the post with those brackets? Is that
Yes.
what- And what about the pickets? Are they gonna be replaced to make them the 6 feet?
Yes.
You're not gonna
Yeah,
add?
they'll be with a 6-foot board with it's a dog ear type.
It'll be new 6-foot
Yes,
board?
new boards.
That's what I had a question. I was a little unclear when I read that as well.
New boards.
Yes, sir. And under the guidelines, section 13B, fences in the backyard, fences in the rear yard. For all practical purposes, this is privacy fence. Privacy fences are permitted, set back from the front of the house as long as they begin halfway back on the structure, and then proceed towards the back. Any questions?
I move that we grant the certificate of appropriateness.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Yes.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Hartshorn?
Aye.
Mr. Weaver?
Aye.
Mr. Geisler?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye. forgive me, Mr. Howard, was there a second part to the
There's
COA?
a little
Okay.
section that
That's what I
I
was confused.
thought about after I had submitted this application. It's on the other side of the house. It's just a little section of the 6-foot fence, probably about, let's see.
That's the same picture.
About 9 feet long, the 6-foot, same type fencing with the,
Just on the east side instead of the west
Yes.
side of the house?
yes.
Same material, same designs?
Yes. But I would like to paint this to match the house.
Yes, sir. This is gonna be the mirror image of it. Any questions?
I'm glad to clear that up. I was a little confused on that.
Well,
So-
yes, ma'am, and please forgive me. Yeah, speak up anytime. You're not gonna offend anyone. But any questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the fence on the east side of the house. Same materials, gonna be painted to match the house. If I could add one suggestion, if you would provide the paint color number to Mr. Boswell.
Okay, sure,
So-
Williams paint, yeah, I will.
Yes, sir.
So moved.
You have a motion, do I have a second?
Yes.
Motion and a second. Roll call, Mr. Boswell.
Mrs. Hartshorn,
Aye.
Mr. Weaver,
Aye.
Mr. Geisler, Mr. Johnson.
Aye. Thanks, sir.
Thank you very much. I'm enjoying being on this side of the podium after many years up there. Thank you very much.
Ms. Brewer. How are you doing this evening?
I'm good. How are y'all?
Doing fine, thanks.
I brought my red brick with me tonight. Yes, so the proposal is similar in idea. We just, from our former COA, we just scaled down a bit, and we had to go away from the flat roof with the terrace on the second floor, just to meet within our budget. So I tried to take the feedback that I got from the last round about introducing the new roof lines, and we tried to kind of come up with something that was a bit closer to what the existing look is right now.
Sorry, yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
There's
Oh,
a bit
yeah,
of a
that's
delay
good.
with the
Okay.
mouse.
The lower right photograph is a valley or a ridge, one or the other. I can't tell which way the metal's bent. But it looks like, do you know the distance between the seams on the standing seam roof?
On that existing there, I do not have much.
The reason I ask is because you're proposing to use 26 gauge standing seam,
Mhm.
and that's fairly thin material. So typically with a 26 gauge roof, you wouldn't have, your seams would be like 12 inches on the center to get a non-striated roof like we require. If it goes wider than that, like if it goes 14, 16, 18, the wider you go between seams, the thicker your material needs to be.
Okay.
So if that's 12 inches, then I think the 26 gauge would be okay, but if it's like 14 to 16, you might want to step it up to about, say, 24 gauge, 22
Okay.
gauge.
Okay.
By way of a reminder, Ms. Brewer was here previously. and we approved, the board approved the COA. This one, I think and refresh my memory, in the prior COA, was the door, the upstairs door removed, or was it remaining?
It was remaining in the prior.
That's what I
the-
thought.
There was a balcony or a porch above, am I remembering?
Right, yeah, that's what we were, that's what I presented last time.
So you've taken that out.
Mhm.
Could you tell us, are there other changes from what we looked at last?
The overall footprint is a little smaller, so it's not going quite as far out towards the property line as we were before. And that for me visually made it easier to have our roof slope a little lower than what we had it before when it was going out. When it was this big long flat thing coming out, I think it was less pleasing. So we pulled it in a little bit, reduced this square footage slightly on the porch, which is to the left there. And then just the roof not being a flat roof with a terrace.
So really no change in materials or colors or?
No. The only note that I'd made was I realized after the fact, the last round we had half-round gutters specified, but none of the gutters now in the house are half-round, so I'd prefer to just match what we have with just a,
Which are the K-style.
yes, yeah. Okay.
No, that was the only change that I saw whenever I was going through, was the modifications to the second floor, which I think the proposed plans tie in well. Go ahead.
Was the archway with the porch, was there an arch in the trim where you're gonna have the outside eating area before?
On the existing structure?
No, I think on your plan before, it seemed like maybe there was a big, between the columns.
We did talk about an outdoor fireplace in between the columns
I think you took
before,
that out.
and that we
I like
took
it
out
better
as
without
well,
that.
yeah. And we would salvage brick to fill in that door upstairs, so it would be really seamless.
Can I ask why you brought the bricks? I wasn't here at the last meeting, so.
Oh, because I know that I need to submit my brick color
Oh,
at some
okay.
point, so I
I thought
happen to
that
have
had
this, and so I brought it.
No,
We love samples.
They look, and I tried to get them to let me use white brick, and they just wouldn't hear it.
But you're gonna match the existing brick?
Yes,
You're-
this is
Are you
that-
confident that that
Yeah,
you can
this
do
is
that?
this is pretty near perfect match, on the color. And it's a lighter colored mortar that'll match it than what this sample is, of course, but.
Yeah, you gotta be tricky with that mortar.
Oh. I think the plans, fit the guidelines. I would, your material list is what was approved last time. I would like to clarify, just for the record, standing seam roof, no striations.
Right.
The true standing seam. Other than that, if there are no further questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve this. I'm sorry.
You're listing either Anderson or Jeld windows, those are for the new windows, correct?
Yes, new only,
Okay,
yes.
because the existing ones in the attic.
Oh, yeah, we're keeping those.
Good point.
Kindly.
That's it.
I'm sorry, that's not, I thought that was your husband at first.
I move that we grant the certificate of appropriateness.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second to grant the COA. The only clarification will be the no striations relative to the roof on the material list that you provide.
Okay.
Mr. Boswell.
Mrs. Hartshorn,
Aye.
Mr. Weaver,
Aye.
Mr. Geisler,
Aye.
Mr. Johnson.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please forgive me. it's Mr. Belcher's application, but you represent Ms. Wise, and I do apologize.
I'm Linda Wise. I'm here for Hugh Belcher. And it's for signage for the bed and breakfast that he has opened up on 170 East Main Street, which is above White Birch. It's called Bow the Nest. The first signage there is what would be out front. That would be the only sign that would be out front. Then the next one, there are 3 doors that's on the back side of the building. So this would just go on the appropriate door, just, you know, as directional signage, people knows where to come to. And then there, that one with the arrow would be in the alleyway so that they know which way, once they turn off of Main Street, then they know which way to go.
Okay,
And
material.
they're small, they're only like 14 by 14 or 14 by 12.
Yeah, and the material for each sign.
And the material is the sign foam, and then it has vinyl. The vinyl is on top of that.
And these are mounted, yeah, obviously, the front is gonna be mounted to the building.
Be mounted to the building, and it's a metal frame that's on it,
Okay.
black metal
Okay.
frame.
The board, Mr. Boswell actually brought to my attention, the guidelines specify no more than 2 signs per building, basically per business. There is a provision in the town code that whenever the sign is under 1 foot, there's an exception that can be made, as which, under the guidelines, the board has the discretion to deviate from the guidelines if need be. Any concerns with 3 signs?
Are there already signs on the building for other, there's the
White
birch
birch,
juice.
and that's all.
Is there just the one sign for that?
As far as I can recall, yeah.
I think don't they have a sandwich sign, board sign that comes in and out, maybe?
They have their,
That's exempt from the town code.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking.
I'm just trying to remember, we had the previous owners come and request several signs. And I think we held them to,
To-
remember,
That was a multi-tenant sign.
yeah, is that right?
Yep.
But I think that was gonna be a
Well,
lot of signs at one place out front.
multi-tenant signs, you're limited to one sign per building. With different businesses within the same building, the way the provisions read, you can have 2. You know, the way this reads is signs should be kept to a minimum with no more than 2 signs per building or 1 sign per business, whichever is greater. Multi-tenant signs are limited to 1 per building. And all signage for that building should be located on said sign. Where is the front sign gonna be located? Has a location been picked out yet?
I don't know if he has or not exactly.
So one would be on the front.
Just, one would just be on the front,
and
on
then
the
one
street
would-
side.
And then there would be one on the alley between that and
on-
Old Treasurer's building.
Yes.
And then where's the third one?
It's on the back door. So,
Oh,
because there's
very
3,
back.
yeah, it's on the very back side of the building that's facing the alleyway back there. And there's 3 doors back there. So you gotta have one for them to know which one to come into.
Does that sign have to be the same size? Can that sign be smaller
Yes.
on the third?
Yeah.
If you went down to the 12 by 12, would that exempt the other, would that work?
The sign on the side.
Could be smaller? And then
Is
you-
actually, the way everything is, on the back is 1.5 by 1.5. The one on the side in the alleyway is
14 by 14.
by 10.
10, right.
You know, so it's actually, right at 1 square foot.
Seems like the arrow ought to go the other way.
It's two-sided, so it will, the way he's got it, he could turn it. He could mount it, yeah. I don't know which side of the building he's gonna put it on, because there's two sides, two little alleys on that side, so I don't know which side he was gonna put it on. So he said, you know,
So the only door for the, bed and breakfast is the very back.
yes.
That's actually assigned above. What about,
Was there a fire escape there in the, next to the Treasury building?
But there's a staircase up to their.
There's a staircase up to the landing, yeah, and
That's
there's,
not gonna be part of the entrance to this business.
do you go up? You can go up, one goes up to where you can go into the elevator, and that's up on that landing. The other little door is the one that takes you up the steps.
So what I'm trying to figure out is part of the purpose for the signage is to direct people coming to, what is this? I guess it's a bed and breakfast or?
It's bed and breakfast.
So are they trying to direct everybody coming to the bed and breakfast to the very back to use only that entrance, or is it okay to use the staircase that's right beside the treasurer's office also?
Both of those doors are on the back, and the third door goes into the back side of White Birch. Yeah.
so there's a black staircase on the side of the building in between White Birch.
Right, that goes to their personal residence.
That's what I was trying.
Yeah, I forgot about that staircase,
So
yeah.
part of this signage is to, so
That's
that
not,
people
that.
don't use that.
That,
to
right,
direct them
it's
around
directing
the
them
side.
around, yeah. Yeah, so they don't go up that, because I forgot that stairway was there.
I mean, I think that the level we're dealing with here is, they have to frequently draw around because people are on a lot of signs, and part of our mission is to not have an abundance of signs in the historic districts. And so, every time we don't follow one of these rules, we have a whole group of other people coming in and saying, so, the guidelines say no more than, 2 signs per building, 1 per business, well, there's 2 businesses there. So that would be at the most 2 signs. And they're asking for 3, plus then there would be the White Birch sign in addition.
Could the back door be painted to basically draw attention, whether it was the logo, something of that nature, instead of having a sign over the door? I mean, that's
Yeah.
versus.
Land-
From
Landlord.
an aesthetic standpoint, having another sign on the back of the building doesn't really make a difference in
Yeah.
terms of what we're trying to protect against. We don't want a bunch of signs up in
Signs
the
on
Main Street.
front.
It's the back sign, that's not as big a problem for me as the 2 signs right there on the front of the building for the same business. And I understand, is there any way to incorporate the sign for the business and the arrow into one sign so that you don't have 2 signs for this business on basically the front of the building?
He possibly could, yes.
So I think that would be helpful.
Well, I mean, that would put it back in compliance.
Right. Okay.
So if you're okay with that, then that will be what will be approved or submitted.
Okay.
All right.
I guess if that won't work, it can come back.
He can come back.
So what we've got, basically 1 sign on the front and 1 sign on the back.
On the back, okay.
Right.
Okay,
Okay, of what's been requested.
gotcha, okay.
So, with those modifications, do I have a motion to approve?
So
What's the motion gonna read? It's just very confusing to me. Make sure we get it right. So the motion's going to be that,
The motion will be to approve the COA as submitted with the exception, with the modification,
Okay.
that there will be 1 sign on the front, no
Okay.
sign on the side,
okay,
and then 1 sign in the rear
okay.
in compliance with the dimensions as submitted.
All right, I'll second that then.
Mr. Boswell?
Mrs. Hartshorn,
Aye.
Mr. Weaver,
Aye.
Mr. Geisler,
Aye.
Mr. Johnson.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
People know you use that stairwell.
They may. You think they'll use that?
They're really confused.
Yeah. Mr. Pillion?
I'm back.
Yes.
It's like a monthly thing. All right, so we have finished, or almost finished 125 Valley Street. So it's time to move on to another project, which is 159 Main Street. So several years ago, the landscape and the original renovation plan was approved by this committee. The renovation plan's been completed. The landscaping plan has not yet been completed, thankfully, because we've added some additional ideas to this. So there's a couple changes in the existing structure we'll talk about first, I guess. So the existing structure, I'm requesting to do a new standing seam metal roof in black, and then to paint the building white. Right now, it's a hint of green. You may not even notice that, but it'll be white in the new structure. So we can match all outbuildings as well. So that's the existing structure that's the only change to the existing structure that we make, color and the roof. The existing outbuilding it's a vertically hung board and batten rough sawn hemlock lumber on the existing structure that will be painting white, securing the foundation so the groundhogs don't continue to take it over, salvaging the 3 windows and repairing those as well, placing a new standing seam metal roof in black and painting that existing structure in the back on the Plum Alley side white as well. And then new pea gravel for the parking area. And then the accessory dwelling unit of the guest house is what you see in front of you now on the screen. So this will be constructed to match the existing outbuilding with vertically hung board and batten, rough sawn hemlock lumber to match that existing building, painted in white with a standing seam metal roof in black. It will have a filled stone fireplace. I do not have a sample of stone. Jason was kind enough to let me submit this application at the last minute, so I don't have a sample of that. The stone for the fireplace, and that same stone for the fireplace will be duplicated in a filled stone patio that will abut both structures and tie those 2 existing outbuildings together.
Any questions?
Is your parking changing at all?
No. The new structure will be at the edge of the existing parking area into the lawn. And I think I've submitted another that kind of shows the existing, yeah, there it is. Where
There it is.
where everything will be positioned.
Do you have a picture of the existing
I don't.
building that this is matching, the board and batten?
I do not.
I would
have
provided that, and I can get you one. That's the structure that's shown on the diagram there at the very back.
Yes.
Can you enlarge that, Jason?
Definitely try.
It's Mr. Chairman, it's a pretty rudimentary structure that is trying to duplicate in the new accessory structure.
And it's very hard to read. This is the proposed new structure, Mr. Pillion, is that correct?
That's correct.
This is the existing shed.
And then you can see a faint line that is the patio that connects the 2 structures. Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Yeah. So I don't, you may, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, you may be familiar with Julie Finney's property on
back structure.
on her back structure. That's what I'm trying to duplicate on this structure, to add more privacy to the backyard, a more defined parking area, and provide an accessory dwelling unit on the same piece of property. And to renovate and update the existing outbuilding.
Your primary structure, you're not doing anything to right now, are you?
Painting.
Painting.
Painting it white.
Just white
And
instead
replacing the roof with a standing seam. Yeah, which the first estimate that came back, I could build a new house for painting. Yeah.
You've been getting some shocking cost on.
$37,000. Yeah. Yeah. This may just get approved or not get approved, and yeah.
We just have the rear addition of retirement. Nice, very small.
Yeah, and the existing structure has had 3 additions added to the original structure, so it's multiple roof lines with different pitches, which, correct, yeah.
So
Any questions?
Are we just approving like preliminary plans or like types of windows and all that kind of stuff? Or are we gonna get that
Mr.
later?
Chairman, Mr. Giesel, that's the pleasure of the committee.
The windows in the structure are gonna be wood frame.
Of course. And the windows of the structure will not be facing the alley and will be internal in position, so I'm not sure how,
Whether they would be
Whether
seen
they
from
would be
public view.
visible.
This will be visible from.
that, the chimney and would be the visible structure from the alley.
We talked a lot about striations and no striations and all that sort of thing. I just, when you say black standing seam roof, I have in mind the building across the street from you, Brian, Byron. It's just really shiny, really shiny. And so, that,
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, that, in my opinion, is not a standing seam roof on the structure across from Mr. Giesler's house.
we agree.
Okay,
We got that one slipped by us.
Yeah.
We've been trying to be more
Diligent.
I can certainly appreciate that.
The, in looking back over, you've got the primary structure, black standing seam, no striations, white paint. The paint color or the paint code can be provided prior to being applied. The outbuilding, the windows are wood windows, even though it doesn't specify, we can go ahead and specify that in the motion. Are there any other questions relative to the materials? The out structure is going to match the primary structure, with the roof. So,
Any questions?
Mr. Giesler.
We grant the certificate of
Yeah,
appropriateness.
I second that.
I have a motion and a second, as submitted with the clarifications. Again, standing seam, no striations. White paint, the windows, even though there is a question being visible from public view, being wood. Other than that, approved as submitted. Before I ask for a vote, is that acceptable?
Of course, of course. And just to comment, the historic district is certainly of importance to me, considering I just renovated a structure.
It was a substantial
Right.
investment.
A substantial investment, and have slowed down traffic on Valley Street for 18 months. I figured I might as well do it on Plum and possibly Main.
Well, I mean-
But you did, but you did, yeah, so.
Roll call, please.
Yeah.
Mrs. Hartshorn?
Aye.
Mr. Weaver?
Aye.
Mr. Geisler?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye. Well,
Okay.
thank you. A couple things. One, for undertaking the projects that you have undertaking. They're desperately needed, and, I mean, the work you've done looks great. And
Thanks.
is truly a contributing structure.
I think that looked nice.
Yeah. And, you know, I know Matt Klug certainly appreciates everything.
Well, he can retire early and I can't now, so.
That's it, that's it.
perfect. Yeah, yeah,
That's the contractor that did all this work, so.
yeah, and he's the contractor on this job as well, so.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tom.
Yes, sir. How are you doing this evening?
I'm pretty good, y'all.
Doing fine, thank you.
I'm Matt Henderson. I'm the facilities maintenance manager for the town of Abington. And so my project is, it's Finley House on 300 Green Springs Road. I guess first off, since it's up, there's a shelter there that was built about 3 years ago. I would like to stain that. There's a sample there that I've submitted, which it come from Lowe's, considering I would probably use Sherwin-Williams, but considering with all this COVID-19 going on, they have their doors closed, so it's hard to go in and get a sample. But that's the color scheme that I would like to go with, that russet.
Oh, right here.
Yes. Yes.
And I thought there was a photo, right here it is. You're gonna be staining the gable,
Yes.
and then
The posts, the pickets, the handrail.
all of it in
Yes.
russet?
Yes.
Okay.
And then right here is the handrail and the pickets on the porch of the Finley. I would like to do the staining it in the white.
Just white.
The russet's gonna make it pretty much match the brick.
Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah.
close, I mean,
It looks, and that's an excellent point, it looks brown here. When applied, it's a reddish
Right.
tone,
Yeah.
a deeper. That's actually what my deck is on my house, so. Any questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve as submitted.
I move that we grant the certificate of approval.
Motion, do I have a second?
All right.
Have a second, roll call, please.
Mrs. Hartshorn?
Aye.
Mr. Weaver?
Aye.
Mr. Geisler?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Do you all recall, did this come before the board?
I think it did. Yeah. Right. I'm not too sure.
As far as the
What was the
pickets,
question, Mr. Weaver, I'm sorry?
Did this come before the board? I know,
The brick?
no, Cliff's work here. Cliff McClellan built that porch, did
Porch? I have no idea, that's before my time, sir.
how long has that been built?
Probably longer than we think.
But,
5 years, I mean, at least, it was done before
yeah, I don't remember that coming before the board.
Yeah, now that I say that, I don't.
As far as other business, Mr. Boswell brought up earlier, when Mr. Neese rolled off of the committee, Mr. Neese was vice chair. Typically, that position goes in seniority down. Mr. Weaver has shifted the burden, so to speak, which puts Mr. Geisler next in line. Just for the record, Mr. Geisler, accept vice chair.
Yes.
All right. Does that need to be approved by the board, Mr. Boswell, or?
I think it needs to be a vote, yes, sir.
Okay. Ms. Hartshorn, for information, as chairman, I'm not allowed to make any motions, anything of this nature. So I'll entertain a motion to approve Mr. Geisler, to nominate and designate Mr. Geisler as vice chairman, to conduct the meetings in the absence of the chairman. Do I have a motion?
Well, there's only two of us, so I guess I could make the motion.
That's it. You're gonna be involved one way or the other, so I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Yes.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Hartshorn?
Aye.
Mr. Weaver?
Yes.
I guess you don't get a vote. Mr. Geisler? And Mr. Johnson?
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other business before the board? Any other discussion? As far as the survey, anything of that nature, Mr. Boswell?
I don't have anything to report at this meeting, sir. But that should be getting wrapped up within the next month.
Okay.
We should be getting something back from the HR back.
All right.
So we get to welcome a new member tonight, I
Yeah,
guess.
I actually have an
We do.
off-the-record question, if I can entertain that now.
Well,
You're
if it's
done.
off the record, hang on just a second.
I move we adjourn.
It'll go on
Have
the
a
record at
motion,
some point.
motion that we adjourn, second.
Second.
Have a motion and second. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Hartshorn?
Aye.
Mr. Weaver?
Aye.
Mr. Geisler?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye. Thank you.